Oh, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Hey, what's up, Joe?
Guys, you know I love being with you both. How the heck are you? You guys are right there where the action is.
Yeah, we are. Stressful, Joe. Stressful and frustrating. We want this to be over with, as I'm sure most Americans do. Let's start from the beginning here. A few days ago, what I was just alluding to. Donald Trump gets up there on the stage. He says he won the election, which was a lie. He says that the Democrats are a fraud. This is a fraud, which is a lie. He says that they're trying to steal the election, which is a lie. As a guy who at one time supported Donald Trump, and I know you haven't the last few years, what do you make of the president of the United States going after our democracy and our voting system in this country like that?
Look, I got a lot of crap. I think it was about 2.5, 3 years ago when I first called Donald Trump a traitor. And this is, I did that because I remember that was after Helsinki when he embraced Putin and gave the middle finger to our own intelligence people. I mean, this is just the latest example of the president of the United States attacking this country. When you stand up on election night, when millions and millions and millions of votes are being counted, and you say, I won, it's a fraud, stop counting votes, I'm sorry, you are attacking our elections process. You're attacking this country. He's an American, and he's attacking our country. He's a traitor. That's all this is.
Yeah, and Joe, I have some friends, a friend of mine who's a poker player. His name's Mike Matisow, and he is a huge Donald Trump supporter, huge. And even he went on social media, and he called the president a disgrace, and I was shocked. And there's a lot of other Donald Trump supporters out there that I think understand. I mean, you think of Marco Rubio and Chris Christie and the people that have come out in the last couple days criticizing the president. Finally, I think it's a good thing. So now looking forward, Joe, you've been involved in politics for a long time. As I mentioned, as a former GOP congressman, you know what it's like to win an election. You understand how this works. What are you looking at the landscape right now and all the lawsuits that Trump is doing right now? Talk to me about that. Talk to me about the lawsuits, and do you think he has any real legitimate pathway to victory right now?
No, I don't worry about that because, look, I believe in our election officials all over the country, in state after state. They're doing the best they can. I don't worry about all these bogus lawsuits that Trump is throwing out there. What I worry about is this. I think Biden will be declared the winner one of these days. But none of his supporters are going to accept the results of the election. Donald Trump has been teeing this up for months, lying to his supporters so that his supporters won't believe that a Donald Trump loss is legitimate. And what I worry about then is after Biden is declared the winner. I really do worry about violence on our streets. I think that is what this president has been inciting, and I think it's going to happen.
I agree with you. I want to talk to you about that and talk about the president's own words, flaring it up, throwing gasoline on a fire. I agree with you. I believe if Donald Trump does win, does lose, and I think we both agree he probably will, that he's never going to concede the election. Never. I don't think he ever will. These lawsuits are going to go on, and I think there is going to be violence. I mean, what would you say to the president right now, if you had to, about responsibility and the importance of his words and how his base might take it one way, and there might be violence. People could get hurt or even killed. I hope that doesn't happen. What would you say to that?
I wouldn't. Well, I would never say anything to Trump because he's a dumbass and he's beyond help. So I wouldn't say anything to Trump. But look, guys, I'm a weird never Trumper. I voted for Trump in 2016. His supporters are my supporters. They were my listeners on the radio all over the country. I know these people well. I would speak to them. And my fear is, look, I know these folks. Donald Trump told them 3 months ago, there are only two scenarios. Either I win or it was stolen from me. I hear from hundreds of these people every day because, again, I come from their world. To a man and a woman, they believe that.
Right.
They believe that when Biden wins, it will be stolen. And I can guarantee you there are going to be some bad eggs and some bad nuts in there that are going to do some bad things. I worry for this country.
As do I. I want to ask you a little bit about what's the difference in Trump wanting some voting to stop and then some voting to keep going. For example, there were Trump supporters yesterday in Detroit that were chanting and demanding to stop the count. But yet, when you go over to Phoenix last night, there were a bunch of Trump supporters that were chanting, count those votes. These people are morons, Joe. I mean, talk about the inconsistency where in this country, Trump supporters and Donald Trump himself wants the vote to stop, and then in other states where it would benefit to him, he wants the vote to continue. What do you say to that nonsense?
So the dumbass in the White House this morning tweeted out in all caps, "Stop the count," just reminding us again how uniquely stupid he is. Because if you stop the count now, he'd lose.
Exactly.
But more importantly, how uniquely un-American he is. How could any president want to disenfranchise American voters? Look, Joe Biden's been out there since the election saying, you know what, this is America. We count all the votes. That's what I want in a president.
And Trump just made a tweet, and when he says count the votes, and I agree with him on this, he means count the legal votes. And he believes that there are a lot of illegal votes out there. That's fine.
And I hate to interrupt on the radio, and I know
totally
you hate
fine,
to be
Joe.
interrupted. Then, damn it, say that.
He did just say that.
I am so effing sick and tired of people trying to explain to me over the last 4 years what the hell this dumbass means. We're beyond that. We're beyond trying to say, hey, Joe, I mean, I get this crap from these people every day. Hey, Joe, this is what the president really meant. I'm tired of that. He said, stop the count, period. That's wrong.
And he just tweeted out, I want every single legal vote to count. What are your thoughts on the turnout in some of the states nationwide? Like, for example, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's turnout is 89% of all registered voters. Before this year, the highest was 73%. Usually it's anywhere from 67 to 72%. That's a substantial increase. And in Milwaukee, in a couple of wards there were more votes than registered voters. In one ward, there was 200% more votes than registered voters. I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, how do you, when you see something like that, how do you go? And then if you look at what happened with the major influx in votes,
so you need to know Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Wisconsin has same-day registration,
right?
And you and I probably are on the same side of that issue. But so the people who voted, there were people who voted who are not recognized as registered because they registered on the day of voting. So that doesn't mean anything. Look, the bottom line is turnout for Trump was through the roof.
Yep.
Turnout against Trump was through the roof. That's why Trump has done so well. Trump's going to lose, but he's done really well. Joe Biden's going to win. My God, he'll get more votes than anybody got who ever ran for president. I think the bottom line is...
And why do you think that is?
Trump will lose, but Trumpism, Donald Trump is here to stay.
Yeah.
And his stranglehold on the Republican Party now is stronger than it's ever been.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of Republicans, myself included, are really disappointed with Fox News and how they handled the election night, especially as related to calling Arizona with 60% of the vote in. And Donald Trump now is behind, I believe, 65,000. I'd say, did you watch that? And what did you think? Did you think that they called that too early, Joe?
Not being an expert on that, it sure seems that way to me. It seems like Fox made that call too early. The AP, I think, also made that call. At the end of the day, they may be right. But I think when it comes to calling races, especially Arizona, one that's going to be that close, I think you have to be as cautious as you can be. We'll find out, though, if they ended up being right.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with JD a little bit, and I agree that maybe they called it too early, but I actually thought Fox News as a whole did a pretty good job on election night, and I watched a lot of it, and I thought they were very, very fair. I also thought CNN did a very good job, and they were more cautious than Fox News. I was impressed with both networks. I think their coverage has been very, very, very fair, and I want to give them both kudos for that because I was impressed with that.
And I agree with that. I thought Fox's coverage overall was fair. What cracks me up is all of the Trump heads, they get angry at Fox News because Fox News is actually trying to be fair.
Exactly.
I mean, that says a lot.
And here's hold on a second. Here's what says...
Can you call it fair when Trump is up? No, he has 96% of the... or 96% of the vote is in Florida. He's up 500,000 votes, and they don't call it for him. How do you call that fair? But
no. But again, you and I'll speak for both of us.
Yeah.
On the science of when and how you call a state, you and I are meatheads because we don't know nearly as much as these people do. They make mistakes, but every state is different, and it depends on the vote that's come in.
Right.
It's not the number of votes.
But here's the reality of it, Joe, and I think you'll agree with me on this. It really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't matter what network calls what state. In the end, it doesn't matter. What matters is all the votes are counted, which Donald Trump clearly doesn't want. All the votes are counted. It's done in a fair fashion. People don't lie and make up voter fraud stories. Let all the votes be counted, even if it takes another week, even if it takes another 2 weeks, and we will all find out in this democracy, which is the best country in the world, who won this presidential election. That's what it comes down to. So people on the right can complain, oh my God, Fox News called it for Arizona. The votes are still being counted in Arizona. It doesn't matter what Fox News said.
Well, it does, because
no, it doesn't.
If you're in line to vote and you think that your vote doesn't matter because your state has been called for a different candidate, wouldn't that disenfranchise you from not voting?
Where's your evidence that happened?
There's been a lot of people that have said that.
Define a lot of people.
People just over the internet have said that I was in line.
People on the internet.
I was in line to
vote.
vote.
So if 20 idiots decided to leave a line, you think that matters?
Yeah, it discourages voters. It suppresses the vote.
Hey, the bottom line is, here's the bottom line. Biden's going to win, but Trump's going to win too. Biden gets his victory, but Trump gets his lie. And this is why Trump is going to live to fight another day. He has lied to his supporters about voter fraud, and it's rigged. But they're all going to believe it, and Donald Trump will be able to carry that lie moving forward, which again is why he is going to dominate the Republican Party for the next 4 years.
That is Joe, that is a really, really good point that you just brought up. I mean, what would you say to that? I mean, he has a cult following. Not everybody that voted for Donald Trump is part of the cult. That's not what I'm saying. But in that cult following, when he says you can inject yourself with disinfectant, or when he says that the media, the enemy of the people, he has that cult followership. No matter what he says, those people cannot think for themselves, and they take truth for everything he says. I mean, would you agree with that? There is a percentage of people that are like that.
I know these people because I came from that world. You could say I was part of the cult. Yes, for most of these people, that's true. This is why the result saddens me. If Donald Trump had been repudiated, beaten by a lot, then a lot of that cult would have been disillusioned. Mm-hmm. But now they're going to be emboldened because it will be, Trump only lost by a little bit, so they're going to remain fervent cult followers for the next 4 years.
No, but you actually think that a candidate like Joe Biden, I know you know him personally, but who didn't spend a lot of the time in the spotlight, who didn't exactly have a lot of enthusiasm, that he goes out and he gets the highest amount of votes ever, and he beats Obama?
He beats Trump, you mean?
I'm saying he beats Obama. He had more votes than Obama.
This is no credit to Biden. The enthusiasm on the Biden team was against Trump.
Correct.
The reason why Joe Biden will end up with more votes than anybody in the world has ever gotten is only because of Trump. Trump brought his opponents out, and he brought his supporters out. It's got nothing to do with Biden.
So what are your thoughts on, really, if you look at this, let's assume Joe Biden wins the election. If you look at this, Republicans are likely keeping the Senate. They've picked up at least 6 seats in the House. They just, Amy Coney Barrett was just nominated to the Supreme Court, or confirmed a couple weeks ago. So now you can say that the Republicans control the Supreme Court, if you will, I guess. But there wasn't really a massive victory for Democrats or a blue wave.
No, that's why I say, look, this is a really divided country. That's why I say I think the winners were Biden and Trump. The Democrats, and we don't know because it looks like there'll be 2 Senate runoffs in Georgia. But the Democrats will pick up seats in the Senate, and the Republicans will get back some of those seats that they lost in 2018 because 2018 was such a bloodbath. But to your point, this is an extremely divided country. Absolutely.
Yeah, there's no question about that. If you're just joining us, he is Joe Walsh, former GOP congressman and presidential candidate. A couple more questions for you, Joe. Let me start with this. If Donald Trump does lose, don't you think that there will be a lot of Republicans in office that are going to distance themselves from Donald Trump, and they are not going to be saying many positive things about him down the road? How do you feel about that, about some of these Republicans? Well, tell me why.
And
why?
I won't give you names, but I've already been contacted by a number of my Republican colleagues in Congress who have privately said, damn it, this was not a landslide for Biden. Trump now is hanging in there, which means basically we have to keep sucking up to Trump. No, that's why I think if Trump had gotten killed and if the Democrats had won the Senate and it was, as you said, a blue wave, then Republicans would have been more emboldened to say publicly what they really think about Trump. But because Trump now can spin it, I lost by a little bit, it was stolen from me, all of these cowardly Republicans in Congress, they've already spoken to me, they now are going to have to keep only saying what they really think about Trump private.
Yeah. That says a lot about them, don't you think, Joe?
No, nothing infuriates me more. I mean, I've lost everything doing what I did. Whether you agree with me or not, it infuriates me that these Republicans in Congress don't do what they really believe.
No question. So, Joe, before we let you go, I know you alluded to the fact that you believe, as I do, that Joe Biden's going to win this election. I know this is a lot of guesswork. When do you think it'll be official? I know that there's a lot of lawsuits out there that Trump is filing. When do you think it'll be official where everybody can finally say it's official, Joe Biden has defeated Donald Trump? When do you think that will happen?
I think in the next couple of days. I mean, I believe your state, Nevada, probably today it will be clear that Biden's going to win it. I think Pennsylvania is probably a couple days, but it looks clear that Biden's going to win that. If Biden runs the table and wins Pennsylvania, Arizona, and Nevada, well, then he's close to 300 electoral votes. And then I think people will tell Donald Trump, come on, Mr. President, you lost by a pretty decent number.
Right.
Drop these lawsuits.
Yeah, I hope that does happen. Before we let you go, Joe, talk to me a little bit about your podcast, anything you want to tell our listeners about.
Hey, if you like what you hear from Joe Walsh, go to F as in Frank, FSilencePodcast.com. Check that out. Follow me on Twitter at Walsh Freedom. And again, I'm going to say this one more time. I love your show, you guys.
Thank you.
You've got two different viewpoints. You let all viewpoints speak. You guys have a great radio show.
Joe, I always appreciate you saying that. That means a lot to us. And I'm one of those people. I like what I hear from Joe Walsh. You got a great podcast, my friend. Thank you. You're a breath of fresh air. That's why we always love having you on, Joe, and we appreciate you, my man. I know
Thanks,
you got
guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe.
That is Joe Walsh, former